Well, good morning. It's great to have everybody here. One of the ways we know a topic is important is that it's very loud down here. So that's a great thing. So especially early in the morning. So welcome to the Center for Architecture and to AI in New York. My name is Jesse Lazar. I'm the executive director here. I'm Jesse Lazar from AI in New York, Center for Architecture. Welcome to Harnessing the Power of Alternative Delivery, a conversation on quality design. We are so excited to present this program alongside DBIA and a lot of the work that we've been doing with partners in the city and across industry. This is a super important topic that I know many of us are trying to get our arms around. And today we want to ask some questions together, like how do we prioritize quality design in alternative delivery? What are the tools we can put in place to ensure that quality design is a central focus while also achieving the cost and time savings that these approaches can yield? So we're thrilled to have a conversation today that explores the different perspectives of the project team, from designer to owner to builder, and hear about different experiences of alternative delivery with project case studies. So this is the beginning of hopefully more programs about this subject, but we're excited to kick this off and again thank our partner DBIA and the folks in the city and across government and industry that have been working on this with us. So I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Bria Donahue, our Director of Government Affairs, to take us forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Bria Donahue, the Director of Government Affairs at AI New York. We are thrilled to have you join us this morning for our discussion on quality design. So as new project delivery tools have become available under broader circumstances for public owners in New York, AI New York has been exploring the factors that ensure quality design is prioritized while also achieving cost and time savings. So want to do a little bit of an interactive moment here. So show of hands, we have a wide variety of people in the room today. How many designers do we have in the room? Raise your hand. Wow, fabulous. How many owners? Okay. Builders? Great. So you can see we have a wide variety of people in the room. Really excited to have a really collaborative conversation, dynamic conversation, really flexible, informal conversation with you all. So today we will be hearing the designer, the owner, and builder's perspective on quality design and utilizing alternative project delivery tools. In planning this program, it was really important for us to bring together the full team to facilitate a dynamic conversation, unpacking shared challenges, and learning the tools for success from one another. We will hear from each of our speakers about an experience they have had working on alternative delivery projects to learn about what went right, what enabled success, and how they navigated challenges. Following the panels, we will have an opportunity for audience questions for all the speakers. In our working group over the past several months, what has become abundantly clear is the most interesting discussions have come out of a collaborative conversation with the full team. So we wanted to provide that opportunity for you all today for a lively discussion. Also, I wanted to note that we have some handouts available at the front table with some useful context on the different project delivery methods we will be discussing today, as well as DBIA's position paper on design excellence. So make sure you grab those. To briefly set the stage, I want to take a minute to talk about what we at AI New York have been cooking up and the larger initiative we've been working on. So, as I mentioned, over the past several months, AI New York's Transportation Infrastructure Committee, along with the Public Architecture Committee, have been working in collaboration with DBIA, New York Metro Region, and other industry partners to explore the question, how can we leverage the power of innovative project delivery to include qualitative and measurable results to ensure quality? We have been examining project examples, lessons learned, seeking to uncover the critical tools for successful alternative delivery projects, asking questions like, how do design champions play a role? How does the owner mindset impact project priorities? What are the critical details needed in contract language and design guidelines to provide enforceable language? And what are the ways to facilitate strong team communication to enable opportunity for innovation and cooperative problem solving? In an attempt to answer these questions and more, we have convened a number of working groups, conducted interviews with industry experts, and put together this morning's program as a midpoint in our project, with the end goal being a written product outlining our findings, case studies, and recommendations. We are tackling this project from 3 angles: member resources, agency changes, and legislative action. On the member resources front, we will continue to host more programs like this. to provide members with an opportunity to hear from experts, ask questions, and learn how to work effectively on alternative delivery projects. Additionally, we are organizing a DBIA certification training course here at the Center for Architecture later this year in the fall. More details coming soon on how to participate in that. And we are also putting together more resources like today's handouts that outline how the role of design professionals varies with different delivery tools and how public owners in New York vary in their use of these tools. On the agency front, we are working with our public owner partners to uncover what works well that can be translated to other owners' workflows and trying to find opportunities that translate some of the positive experiences on vertical projects to horizontal projects and vice versa. And with that, we are also compiling recommendations on internal agency changes that can be made without legislative action. Lastly, on the legislative front, AIA New York is part of the Mayor's Capital Process Reform Task Force, and in that role, we have been working to unlock more delivery tools for New York City so that the owner has more tools in the toolbox to determine which delivery method is right for which project. And because there's really no one-size-fits-all approach with this. And our report will also include legislative actions as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Yves Michel from our Transportation and Infrastructure Committee to talk more about the designer perspective and our definition on quality design. Take it away, Yves.
Well, thank you, everybody. And if you got all of that, you have just earned your HSW credits. So anyway, we're very pleased to be here today. And I think the number of people and the turnout here is kind of indicative of what we suspected all along, is that people are very curious about using alternate delivery, but using it successfully. And I think that's what we want to talk about today. There's a real industry interest in what I'm calling dynamic delivery methods. There are many ways to deliver a project. As a matter of fact, one thing that you'll hear a little bit more is how you tailor a project delivery method. Patrick is one of our panelists on the builder side. He and I teach at Columbia University at the Construction Administration program, and basically we explore alternate deliveries, innovative deliveries, and then talk about how to deliver them successfully to very different clients. I think, as you all know, that we have the proverbial three-legged stool when we talk about delivery, meaning cost, schedule, and quality. And often in these very dynamic delivery methods, the quality falls by the wayside. So that's one of the things we want to talk about. We want to hear the different perspectives from the owner, from the builder, and from the designer, and start to understand how we might bring those together. We're going to take all this information, and Bria's going to sort of mix it all together and turn it into some usable document that will actually benefit the industry. I don't know how you're going to do it, Bria, but I'm counting on you. Just a few words about how this panel came about. Bria mentioned it started with the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Tom Grassi and I and others started talking about how we can use this delivery method, and particularly design build. But many of us in the design community get a little bit frustrated, and we started being in this echo chamber. And we thought, well, this isn't a good idea. There must be some good examples out there. And we started to talk about other groups that have used design build successfully. And one that came up was DDC. I think one of the issues that we sort of encounter is transportation and infrastructure is a horizontal delivery, is a horizontal product, whereas DDC works in vertical. And I think that the tendency to have quality as an issue is a little bit more important for that kind of delivery method. So we reached out to the Public Architects Committee and Michael Plautel. Michael will be leading the conversation with the public sector owners. So we'll start to hear that input. And we think that there are some good lessons learned. And so each panelist will talk through a project, and we'll sort of extract from there what some of the lessons are. And then as we talk more and more, Gia, who is also a panelist, or who will be up next, she straddles both the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, as well as she works for Datner, and she's a member of the DBIA. And so we started to understand that DBIA is working with this concept. And in particular, they've looked at their design excellence definition, and Gia will talk a little bit more about that and how to expand it into some manageable metrics. And so we then started to include DBIA, and Craig Coville will be taking charge of the builders conversation. And one of the things that we talked a little bit about, we did limit this to public sector owners because there's such a rich conversation there. But one thing that Craig will bring up is that a lot of the builders have built for both public and private, and that there are some lessons that can be cross-referenced. So this is kind of what we're going to try to do today. And let's see if I can. So just to start things off, we really wanted to talk about the definition of quality. We talked a little bit about design excellence. Sometimes we think that that term connotates sort of award-winning designs, things that don't necessarily have a resonance for the owners and the builders in particular. So we decided to expand that definition of quality. And what we'd really like to posit here is that quality is a return on investment. And that particularly when you start talking about some of these alternate delivery methods, and many of you have heard them: design, build, operate, maintain, P3s, you know, a more expansive conversation than what we're going to focus on today. But when you have to live with the product, it matters how the quality is handled. So, you know, we go back to the stool of, you know, cost and schedule, we get it, but quality is very much a part of the conversation. So we've expanded it as per these topics. Nothing is new to you, but, you know, how a project performs is a critical thing. Durability, do the materials last over time? Do the systems hold up over time? Sustainability, you know, that goes right into energy efficiency and costs of maintaining the facility. Accessibility, how people get into and out of the project, very much part of the qualitative portion. And from there we go to aesthetics. Aesthetics, once again, as I said, some people, particularly in my MTA world, that's primarily engineers and builders, they see aesthetics as pretty colors, as nice materials, and yeah, that's correct, but that's very much a part of the qualitative portion, and Russ is shaking his head, so I know he has something to say about that. And last but not least is really user experience, how the product ultimately gets used. Does it flow properly? These are all part of quality, so we're going to try to hang this conversation on this broader definition of quality. So I'm just quickly going to do my case study. Basically, I was at MTA. I say I'm a graduate of MTA at this point. But basically, I was the program executive for the Penn Station Access Project. I think some of you may be aware of that. It's a very interesting project in that it leverages an underutilized asset. Right now, the Hellgate line has about 55 trains a day, which are Amtrak trains, plus some freight. And so the idea for Metro North to expand commuter service was to add 4 new stations in the Bronx. So you see Co-op City, Morris Park, Chester, Van Nest, and Hunts Point. And what this will do is, the East Bronx is very underutilized. One of my big tips is if you want to do a real estate investment, buy something in Parkchester. But this area, so basically if you live in Co-op City, just as an example, it takes you about an hour and 37 minutes to get into New York City, to the west side. With Penn Station access, it'll be about 37 minutes. So a huge difference. It also has a reverse commute opportunity, meaning that we found a lot of the people that live in these 4 communities are interested in getting up to Westchester and Connecticut. So that will give them the reverse, because this is part of the Northeast Corridor. So, however, it's a very complicated project. It ends up with 3 modes of rail, meaning you've got freight rail, which is a slow-moving caboose. You've got Amtrak, which it's supposed to be high speed, though some of my European friends debate how high speed it is. But in any event, that's its aspiration. And then you have essentially medium speed, which is commuter. So how do you put them all together? So that's where, with this particular project, we used a design-build methodology. It was mandated at the time by Governor Cuomo. And one of the dilemmas is that our owner of this rail line is Amtrak, and that was a very new method to Amtrak. So there were a lot of lessons that we learned along the way. As I wrapped up my involvement on Penn Station Access, basically I saw it through the preliminary design, 30% design, with Tom Grassi, HNTB. They did a terrific job on the documents, and then we went into the design-build solicitation. We ended up with Halmar Railworks and Jacobs. One of the things that, because Amtrak was new to this method, we really didn't get a lot of the benefits of expediting the design. We really had to go through all the 60 and 90% pacing. So, you know, there is a little bit of a conversation of tailored project delivery, of what is the best delivery method for a project, but that's sort of a different conversation. And then, so what did we learn as part of Penn Station Access? And as I was sort of wrapping up my involvement with MTA, Mark Roach asked me to do a lessons learned document. And so some of the things that we came up with had to do with having a design champion and having an owner that was committed to this. In this instance, I was kind of the champion. I really wanted to sort of push these qualitative portions. We introduced Envision, which is an energy rating system, in order to sort of have that aspect of the qualitative covered. But you do need this strong voice. You also need a good project management team, and that's often in MTA parlance, it's a PMC with the project management team at MTA, and all of those factors need to be working together. But an interesting practical lesson is you need enforceable documents, and there were two things that we discovered. One is HNTB had put together a very good set of documents, but within the dynamic design build process, immediately Halmar Railworks, with, you know, sort of beating up Jacobs, wanted to cut corners, expedite, move things faster. So you then have to figure out how to control that. Well, the fact is we did have a very good set of documents so that you could enforce them. So it's enforceable documents. And one thing that I will say that is, you know, a lesson learned for improvement is we did at one point we did a word search for quality, design, all those kind of terms in it, and we found that in the thousands of documents that make up the bid package, they were all over the place. That doesn't help the design and the building community. You need to have that consolidated. So I think a fresh look at how you really integrate all these kind of things. Many more lessons learned, but we have a really full agenda today. And so what I'm going to do now is turn it over to Gia.
Great. Thank you so much, Eve. So good morning. It's great to have such a robust and diverse turnout here today. My name is Gia Monero. I'm a partner at Datner Architects, and I'm one of the leaders in our public works studio. So my work really spans the vertical and the horizontal. I work on community facilities and parks to essential infrastructure, maintenance facilities, and transportation projects, but the common thread is that they're all for city, state, federal agencies here in the New York region. So that's how my interest in design build started. It was when the Public Works Investment Act was enacted in 2019, and I got really excited about this. For many years now, we've awarded design contracts to the most highly qualified firms rather than the lowest price, and I said, wow, this is the moment. This is the moment when our construction quality won't suffer by being awarded to the lowest price only. As we started to see our client agencies putting out design build work, I really wanted to understand, well, what is this all about? I did the DBIA training, which I'm very glad I did. Rather than just jumping in and all learning together, it was an opportunity to say, okay, what is the potential of this and what can we learn from the folks on the West Coast that have been doing this for many years? I got involved in DBIA, I attended the conferences and made some great connections with other architects that had been doing this, that had learned the lessons. And then I applied for and joined the DBIA National Design Professionals Committee. I'm currently the vice chair of that committee for the 2025 to 2028 cycle, but as a committee member in the previous 3-year cycle, I really led the effort to rewrite the Design Excellence Position Statement. So a little bit about the committee. The Design Excellence Committee's charge is to identify hurdles to successful designer engagement in design build and develop strategies to make design build more appealing to the design community. So that's why we're really happy to have AIA and DBIA together, because the DBIA is here fighting for architects as well. So let's see. So DBIA had a previous position statement on design excellence. However, it was written very much, as Eve mentioned, it was written about aesthetics, it was written about beauty, it was written as this optional add-on that DBIA supported, but you didn't have to do it. And that was one of our big goals on the Design Excellence Subcommittee was, let's rewrite this in a way that actually shows the value that designers bring to projects. It's not just about aesthetics. It's not just what things look like. We're key team members. We're part of the strategy. We're part of that initial goal setting. So as we started digging in, our goals for this document were to communicate the value of design and design build, to define a baseline for owners seeking to define design in their RFPs so that it is there, it is memorialized and written, and also, most importantly, I think, to establish a common language amongst team members so that everyone, when we're talking about design, making sure all parties and stakeholders at the table know what that means. Only when we are all understanding each other can we measure performance and are we hitting our goals. So we wrote this to be flexible for all project types. That would be horizontal to vertical, but also actionable. And it really took inspiration from other design excellence programs. We started with the AIA framework for design excellence. We looked at the GSA guiding principles. We looked at the DDC, Design and Construction Excellence Program. We also looked at some other ones from private clients on the West Coast. And what we came up with was a 5-lens approach to say design is about all of these things, very similar to what Eve was showing in her definition of design quality. So lens 1, integration and collaboration. How do we bring all voices to the table to identify priorities and establish a big idea together? When I say all voices, that's all stakeholders, users, but also everyone on the design build team, the owner, the designer, the builder, the folks that will maintain the buildings. Healthy living, this is everything from baseline accessibility, active design, mental health, perceived and physical safety, and also user comfort in a space. Community impact and delight, how does a project respond to its context? How does it tell a story about what it's about? And what makes it memorable, not just today, but for generations to come? Certainly sustainability and resiliency, passive strategies, carbon and energy reduction, design for a changing climate, and responsibility of design. And this one I think is very core to design build. This is really, the role of a designer is to find creative solutions within a budget. How do you work within those constraints to make something fantastic? That talks about life cycle cost analyses, considering maintenance, durability, and longevity in all decision making. So similar to other frameworks, these lenses are not intended to be a prescriptive scorecard by any means, but rather a framework that outlines a way to talk about project goals and to revisit decisions made on a project. So it sounds so simple, but when we started this out in the subcommittee, the first group we had to present to was the full committee. The subcommittee was largely architects writing these. When we brought it to the full design professionals committee, we were challenged. We were challenged by many of the engineers on the committee saying, but, well, how is this going to apply? How do we apply this to a highway project? And came back and we said, but these are really open-ended. You can look at this and think about every small decision that's made. If you give consideration to it, it can apply. This is not going to radically change what you do. It's a way of thinking. With a few tweaks we got through, we went to DBIA board review. It went through 3 cycles of DBIA board review, and the challenges there were coming from some of the larger builders on the board. At one point, there was, well, maybe this should only apply to buildings. Let's just say this is our position statement for vertical construction only. We kept coming back and saying that no, design excellence, good design is not just for a building. It's key to all of the work we do. Excellence is part of what engineers do, what architects do. It's about good decision making. And finally, it was approved, and I was fortunate to sit on the DBIA awards jury last year, which was the first year that these 5 lenses were part of the evaluation criteria. So that was also interesting to see it tested now in this forum of the DBIA Design Awards. I was the only architect involved in this. And there was certainly some ideas of like, we don't need to read all these. Well, which one do you think looks the best? Like, no. And we took the time and we read through each application, and there were some very thoughtful responses. I think the group was most surprised. One was an underpass project. At face value, there was nothing that you'd look at it and say, I think you called it right, an award-winning project. But when you looked at the decisions that were made, they preserved a park, they added to new parkland. Every decision on that project was design thinking. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about this expanded definition of design excellence and the importance of a designer on a design build team. So in summary, I feel like my takeaways have been the delivery model on its own is not the challenge to design quality. It's really this issue of changing relationships, changing power dynamics, and communication, right? We're putting folks together on one team that haven't traditionally been a team. So how do we use common language, common tools, so that we can talk about this together and achieve excellence together? Fundamental to this, I think, are designers having a seat at the table. We're not often the prime in these situations, but we are an equal partner and need to be treated as such. And we are really good at finding very innovative solutions within a fixed budget. A great designer can work with those constraints. So from my perspective, the benefits and promise of the delivery method still outweigh some of the growing pains I think we've all experienced, but through good communication and identification of shared goals and a common language, I think we're well on our way, and I think that this panel today is proof of that. So thank you.
Can you hear me? Great. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Great turnout for such a wonky topic. Or maybe it's not wonky. My name is Michael Plattel. I'm moderating the panel. I'm a public architect. I've worked in a bunch of agencies and authorities with a bunch of project delivery methods. So I'm very excited to hear what my owner colleagues have to say. I'm going to ask, please introduce yourselves, and we'll get straight into it.
I'm Russell Kriegel, Chief Architect of the Authority, Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
I'm Jennifer Stacy. I'm a Vice President in New York City Economic Development Corporation's Capital Program.
I'm Daphne Lasky, Deputy Director for Cultural Institutions at the Department of Design and Construction.
Linda Tan, I'm the Chief Architect at MTA Construction and Development.
All right, so thank you. And what's your experience? Do we have slides?
Yeah.
All right. Russell?
Sure. Well, there's only one slide.
Yeah, you click.
Very easy lift. Okay. So I just wanted to talk to you about my personal DB journey. I too am also DBIA certified. But the first time we had a chance to do something that actually predates this project. But I wanted to say the authority had already gotten its feet wet on several design builds early on, and they had some moderate success. But in terms of my journey, we did what I call like a mini DB, which was just a public wall surrounding the PSE&G station at a switching station at Newark Terminal A. Oh, I'm sorry. I started really actually doing a public wall around a PSE&G switching station, weirdly. It's not this project, but I'll talk about that in a second. There was the team of Henkels and McCoy was building the switching station for PSE&G, and Kiewit was their designer, and of course they're kind of a horizontal designer and an infrastructure designer, and had no thought about architecture really so much at the time, I thought, for this project. But the Port Authority put an allotment in the project to do a public wall around the station. So even though we were kind of a piece of somebody else's DB, and there were some lessons learned in that, we did something very successful, I think, in creating a new sort of entry to the airport from the southern end. So that was our first foray. And the one that's behind me is the Stewart Crime Lab for the New York State Police at Stewart Airport. That was our first test of doing a design-build contract from scratch and trying to test our all the clauses that we needed to make this thing work. This is a very interesting project. It actually came in under budget. We got to redesign it bigger. Then there were some issues with the solvency of the design build. So it wasn't perfectly successful. However, we learned a lot of lessons. So what I wanted to say is that, then the next projects followed, like the substations at JFK, Bergen and Central. Kind of like, this project was maybe 7 figures. Then we're talking about the 8 figures, and of course, 9 and 10 figures soon followed. Right? Is that correct? Hundreds of millions and billions when it came to like the JFK Roadways Ground Transportation Center and Newark Terminal A, the largest in New Jersey history, and LaGuardia Terminal B bested it as the largest in the country at the time. So what I would like to say is that size matters, but risk adds up for each of those projects, and that's very important. So, the prompt that we had, this is, how is your project different from other alternative delivery projects? We've had a lot under our belt at this point, so I guess I can move farther along and give you some lessons learned, but I don't want to take more than my 5 minutes, and maybe I can bring out some of my other points. Basically, we learned our lessons. Terminal A at Newark, Terminal B at LaGuardia, and then I would say we kind of culminating with our projects at JFK, where we really put into the contract itself things that we had learned in the previous 2 large ones. I'll give you a little bit of a taste for it. There was a process called 1JFK, which was like the overriding principles, which helped guide the quality of the project. There was an executive design review committee. I mean, I have several pages of like lessons learned on how you can do large public works successfully here. So, to the point where our executive director through the governor was reviewing everything, design guidelines, branding, finishes, signage, even, passenger amenities, retail, landscape architecture, everything. So, if there are other, when we get around, I want to give a chance for the builders to talk about their big built projects, but I wanted to say we started out small and then we learned our lessons, and I think that was one reason why we've been successful, moving forward. Oh, we didn't sit in the right order.
Hi. Do you have my slide? Is this on? Yes. Okay. So that's one of our elevators. I work in the stations business unit also, heading up the engineering area, so I supervise the architects and engineers. So we're very much involved with development of our design build projects and the criteria that goes into it. So the project that I'm referencing here is our ADA efforts, and we've done now multiple packages, package 1 through 6. We started in 2020 with our first package of 8 stations, and that was the first big move for us. We had done design build previously in contracts with the Enhanced Renewal Project, which I think went very well, but this was a mandate, and so we had to switch whatever we issued in our typical contracts, we had to switch, develop, and redo. We did this with our in-house team, and we issued a project. Now, from there, we went on package 2, 3, 4, 5, and now recently we issued package 6. I guess a couple months ago it was awarded. So we have learned a lot over the course of these packages. And the first one we issued, it was, we were convinced, just a little bit of information, design builders will know what to do, pared down, and get it out. We were trying to move very, very quickly when funding came our way. And we also needed to show that we were using the funds, public funds and so forth, and getting things moving for the accessible community as well. So, so over the course of time, we have had a lot of lessons learned that have gone on. We've had to fine-tune our project requirements numerous times, really based on lessons learned. And it was kind of funny, we developed the requirements, but our design build teams will argue with us on what we meant when we wrote the requirements. So it's just, there's been a lot of little battles and disheartening moments, but I think we did actually deliver a lot of projects within a short period of time. Some of the quality is very good, and some is not as good as we would like it, let's say. Recently, I was looking at a picture of an elevator opening, and our happy team was in front of the elevator smiling. The construction team was in front of the elevator smiling. And I looked at the photo, and I couldn't recognize the elevator. And I was like, I was dumbstruck. I didn't know where this came from. So I looked at the 100% design documents that were, reviewed and approved, and it looked nothing like it. So I asked the PCO, what happened? What was your process here? And they're like, oh, well, after 100, those are just, I looked at the 100% documents approved and the 100% renderings. And I was told, oh, the renderings, that's not really what it's going to look like. After 100%, we had an issue with the fire-resistant glazing, where the structural engineer had to do something. And so we ended up with something that was not what we originally planned it. I guess that's the downside of design build. But on the other hand, there's been a lot of things. We've had designers propose changes, improvements and so forth, and some have been really easy to work with. Some have not. We've gotten into debates over what words mean on a piece of paper, which doesn't seem like the intention of what the design community should be doing. But anyway, we also had some lessons learned, and we changed our processes. We now have included this last package 6. We have a designated visual quality manager whose job it is to make sure that the design is maintained, developed properly, and executed through construction. We have a lot of issues with the design side is not in the field because they're not paid to be in the field. That's not in their contract with the constructor side of the house. So this is hopefully will bridge it. We've added or tried to strengthen our minimum visual impact guidelines. In our stations, when you add elevators or any kind of systems, you impact the public spaces. There's no space to hide systems that have to run through the stations. So we've provided a lot of guidelines on what we want to see, and we've requested coordinated drawings prior to 100% design. And we found that the design builders have a very hard time delivering that. They split off the design from construction, so the firms, the sub-consultants that are going to install the systems are not around during the design phase, it seems, which was kind of surprising because we thought that would be one way that we could really tackle one of these big issues in our stations. Anyway, there's a lot more to discuss. We could go on, and I'll let someone else talk. Oh, wait, could I just make a summary? So right now, the station's business unit, we do about 60% of our work is design build, actually, and one of these projects is a P3 project. We do ADA work, station component work, a lot of escalator and elevator replacements, and right now we have about 220 projects that are active and totaling $10.9 billion worth of work.
Good morning. Yep. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to talk about the Shirley Chisholm Recreation Center today. It is one of the pilot projects in DDC's design build program. It's pretty new for us. you guys are in for a treat. Sam Hodgkinson from Consigli is here to talk about the project, also from the builder's perspective. So hang on for that. This project had NTP in September of 2022, and we're anticipating substantial completion this summer. So we're about 30 months in. It's a 74,000 square foot recreation center in East Flatbush. It has a swimming pool, gymnasium, dance and fitness studios, a teaching kitchen, media lab. It's going to be LEED Gold. I actually heard the other day maybe we can do better. Sam, if you can do that for us. Mass timber roof over the natatorium, and a public plaza connecting the building to the park and the school and surrounding neighborhood. We're really getting a beautiful project, and we're really very excited about it. And with my 3 to 5 minutes, I think the one message that I'd want to say is that as the owner, you're the project leader, and you have the ability to set the tone and values for your project from the very beginning. We're learning how to do it, but I think DDC accomplished this on this project, and we can just continue to improve and strengthen that over time. I'll talk about this more in a second, but it's completely possible. And as architects interested in working in a design-build environment, it's possible to look for owners who share your values. In the last 30 months that I've been working on the project, we've had lots of challenges. All of the normal challenges on construction, some of the not normal challenges on construction, and solving those problems has been possible because we have an aligned team from the very beginning. So I started as a senior project manager on the job about 6 weeks after NTP, so I inherited a lot of things that were already set up, right? And really what happened is that DDC, in pursuing this program, prioritized design excellence in a number of ways, really for the 1.5 to 2 years before this project officially kicked off. And that included things like extensive outreach to the AIA community in New York City to talk about our design build program and get feedback from the industry on the design build program. It included extensive work internally on early project documents, our front-end planning process, that made sure we had a really aligned scope and budget from the beginning. DDC took responsibility for that, right? And it's bearing out pretty well for us at this stage of construction. And then DDC also did a multi-step in-market period with an RFQ for interested firms, a limited RFP process for 3 firms, and that RFP process included a stipended design phase. And I think that stipend probably did not cover all of those costs, but I think it was enough to signal DDC's commitment to design excellence and DDC's valuing of that work and effort. There were 5 confidential dialogue meetings in that process that really allowed the different design teams and the sponsor agency and DDC to all get to know each other. And DDC's project manager during that time was also an architect. I'm an architect, but he at the time was an architect, and I think was able to bring a level of sensitivity and concern for design, as well as for other project management issues, to that process. So that by the time we got through all of that, by the time we kicked off, we were set up with the right team to continue. There's a lot that you can't anticipate in construction, but having the right people at the table is, I think that's the most important thing, and setting up a design build process that gives that to you as an owner, I think that's probably the best thing that you can do for yourself.